in-depth race recaps.
He's shown speed, he's shown dominance at other racetracks.
Pit stops and strategy.
Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Race strategy, man.
Fantasy racing insights.
Talking about being a team in the summer. We did it. Good job, boys.
Your weekly home for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Good job, Timmy. Here's the many more, fellas. Thank you.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
Let's go race for a championship.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 197 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we are here to break down Ryan Blaney's top 10 run in the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Steve, welcome back to another episode of the show. Fresh off a great run overall for Ryan Blaney in the Brickyard 400. What was a race that halfway through I was sending you memes and gifs of people falling asleep and stuff and complaining that, even watching Ryan's in-car camera, it wasn't exciting, which, isn't normal, especially with where he started, but turned into a really compelling race and with a great finish that I will say I enjoyed thoroughly for a variety of reasons, and not just a great finish for Bubba Wallace, who ends up winning the race, spoiler alert, but just the way the 12 team played the strategy, made their way up front, and got it to work to perfection, and had some kind of luck at the end that got them a really great finish. That Ryan even comes on over the radio as soon as he crosses the finish line, and for a guy that finishes P7, was pretty pumped up about the way the day went. So overall, pretty good weekend. Got to see Lane Riggs win the Truck Series race, and Junior Motorsports get their 100th win in the NASCAR Xfinity Series with, I think everybody wanted the 7 car to get him that win. It looked like he was going to. Then a fellow that also kind of came up short on Sunday ruined that opportunity for them. But man, Connor Zelich picked up his 5th win of the year, and he just continues to light the world on fire. So
I wanted to see Connor win. My favorite, one of my favorite spotters in the world was busy winning a bunch of races again this weekend. He almost did it again. He took 2 of the 3. So Josh had a big weekend. Did you see, for the guys who are the diecast aficionados, did you see Connor's win sticker come off the car and then actually land on the back spoiler and stick there? I mean, that's going to be crazy, because he's the one that pointed it out and then said that the diecast better look like this.
Yeah, he called it to Lionel's attention on social media. So that might be a fun little kind of Easter egg for folks if that diecast makes it all the way to production. So that was kind of fun to see. But yeah, Spotter Josh, on a former Blaney spotter, friend of the show, multi-time guest on our show, on a heater, winning every week since Mexico, except for the Atlanta weekend. They've won in some weeks multiple races, which has been just insane for a guy. So good to see.
And what do we got? We got Lane. He's with Lane a couple times now. With Kyle Larson, right? Kyle Larson filled in the 88, and he won that weekend. And Connor, and then all the Shane wins. I mean, boy, he's a busy boy this year.
So all that's been great to see. But just your quick initial thoughts on the Brickyard 400 weekend, and maybe just the racing. Again, I said I thought we both, and I think I want to speak for you, thought the finish ended up turning out really great. But were there any points during this race where you were concerned at all about being back on the oval and the product that we kind of end up with here, or there, I should say?
Not every week can be 4 or 5 cars within 3 seconds of each other at the finish of a race. Listened to a little bit of Mark Martin today on Door Bumper Clear, and he even said, we know what the racing is going to be like at Indy. When we first went there, we knew what it was going to be like. We knew that whatever we could do, it really wasn't going to work out. And as far as like drama, So what was crazy though was we did watch Ryan pass a couple cars in the field, but for the lead, almost all passes for the lead were done on strategy and pit cycles. So that was the craziest thing to me to see. I thought you would think for sure that there'd be one or two cars that were a little bit better than everybody else and be able to pass somebody. But for the most part, once they get through one or two pit cycles and everybody dials in their cars, and the 12th car really wasn't perfect, but watching lap times, he was pretty much where everybody else was. So yeah, you're right that when you sent me a couple of those texts, it was kind of like, yeah, the paint drying type thing, and it was just like, well, this is the kind of racing that it is. And what was nice about it, though, is that Jonathan did get on a strategy that was an alternate strategy from a lot of other teams. And truthfully, if one more green-white checker happened, there would have been some real crazy things happening, because you would have had only two cars at that point that were on the lead lap were good on fuel. That was Ryan and the 6th car. Everybody else had to go another green-white checker. It might have been real interesting. And we had a couple run out on the second green-white checker. So who knows what a third one would have been. But that was the cool thing, is to be on an alternate strategy where something could click like that. Because everybody else that was on certain strategies, certain things happened. In the 21, the 22, and the 2 were on the same strategy, except that the 22 and the 2 had issues, and the 21 runs out of gas. And that strategy wouldn't have worked the way it was going. So, yeah, it's just that was the only interesting race within the race, was to see how everybody's strategies work. And some of these cautions happened at the right time. Fun things happen.
So, with all of that, everything you said, and it being difficult to pass, and track position was huge, was key throughout this entire race. And we knew that going into the weekend. So a lot of eyes were on practice and qualifying. And the idea going into the week was there was going to be a 50-minute or 55-minute practice session for everybody on Friday. And much like almost every time, it seems like NASCAR heads to Indianapolis, rain is in the forecast. Not even just NASCAR. I mean, the Indy 500 is impacted by rain constantly too. It's just summer in the Midwest. So we didn't get to see that full practice. It rains, so it impacts everything. So talk about what ends up happening, and maybe the struggles that we saw that automatically kind of put the 12 team behind going into the race on Sunday.
Yeah, we got, once again, like you said, Friday it gets rained out, and Saturday they decide to do a 25-minute session with all the cars on track at the same time. And early on there was a lot of traffic, and that was the hard thing to tell. Like, listening to the scanner, and if you're watching TV, they're not showing you every car, so you're not sure, like, so you hear different things about, passing this guy or that guy coming around, and it's like going to throw off all these lap times, which, makes it hard to decide whether or not, so early on, after about 12 laps there, the lap time was P28 overall. At one point, he's like I said, but behind, the 43 was leading at that point in the lap time with 50.027 seconds, and a 10 lap average of P15. Not everybody did more than 15 laps either. And what was great about the practice was they gave them an extra set of tires, so they were going to go out, and guys were going to run a mock qualifying lap at some point too. So that's really what we wanted to see, is if we ran one, where would we line up versus the other guys who ran one. And the 15 laps in, they, Jonathan talking about what they need, and they pit after about 17 laps. Once again, it's like P31 overall. 17 minutes in, 3 goes to the top of the board. So that's another thing. Like, weird cars are going to the top of the board that we're not used to seeing, and it's probably because they're running their mock qualifying lap before anybody else. 3 minutes to go. The 6 goes to the top of the board. They come out to do a mock qualifying run, and it's like P32, about 1.2 seconds back. 11 goes to the top of the board. The 78 may have been kind of in the way on the run. I heard her mentioned, and it's one of those things like about pulling a draft from her or not pulling a draft. That's another thing that's really difficult to tell if any of these guys ran their mock qualifying lap near somebody else. Because early on, like in the practice, the 43 was top of the board, the 42 was second fastest. Well, they got out there and kind of tandem ran a lap or two together, you know. So, you know, for qualifying, Ryan's going to go out 34th. And that's the only good thing about being out of that cycle is now they're going back out late in qualifying. So, you know, hopefully the traffic, the rubber that's on the track is cleared up for where they want to be to get good grip. We got the 42 and the 71 hitting the wall coming out of 2 in qualifying. You know, let's see here. The 8 hits the wall in 2. And, you know, right now, you know, after some of the other guys have went out, like the 2 was P5 early on. The 21 was P10, and the 22 was P8. So let's see. The 23 went to the pole at that point with 7 cars to go. And Ryan was P21 with 5 cars to go. Now, under normal weekends, like the guys who go after you usually pass you. Not everybody did here because Ryan, you know, ends up being 24th. He says on the radio, we keep working on it. The 9 smashes, you know, hits the wall in 2. The 11 gets to the pole, and then the 11, that's where I want to use the word smashes. The 11 just literally crashes trying to go for it. And that was kind of crazy to watch all that because seeing it, I'm thinking, well, Sunday's going to be wild because these guys are so much on the edge, and they're going to be like that all the time, and you're going to have a bunch of different incidents, and really doesn't quite work out like that, you know, but for qualifying, it messes a lot of people up. So we get to Sunday's race day here, and they're doing stages of 50, 100, and 160, 12 sets of tires, fuel run of about 38 to 43 laps, pit stall 29, behind the 51 and in front of the 66, which for me, you know, when you hear those numbers, that's excellent because you know within a pit cycle or two, they're both going to be gone.
Especially when they got to pick their pit stall. I was surprised they actually got one like that. Now they weren't able to get like any of those physical open in, open outs with like, you know, the way pit road is split up, but they basically did with who they're pitting around.
Yeah. So to the rear, 11, of course, the 71, the 42, the 38, and the 62. And I put down my notes, move up 1 row. Once again, if somebody with your even number or an odd number, somebody within your row goes to the rear, your row moves up 1. So 71 was actually, I think, literally starting right in front of Ryan. And Ryan gets that position before they even get started. People were making jokes in the Discord about how he's passing people. They haven't even struck green flag yet. So we got Tim is in turn 1, and he is literally spotting the front stretch, about 3/4 of the front stretch, turn 1, turn 2, and then starting down the back stretch. Mule, Dave Nichols, is in turn 3, and he is spotting the turn 3 and 4, you know, so come down 2 into 3 and then 3 and 4 and then back up to the front stretch. So
I did want to say shout out to Mule because folks are used to hearing him on like road courses, and sometimes for him at some of these road courses, he's really only looking at a small portion of the track, so you don't get to hear him a lot. In this specific race, you know, he's basically spotting half the lap. So shout out to him because you don't usually get to hear too much from him, but here you're hearing a lot all day long.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up later on when we get to that part, and I probably will again. But I put together a TikTok this late last night, and it's on TikTok, and it's our TikTok, and it's on our. I put it under Reels on our Facebook and our Instagram. It's the last 2 restarts, and the first restart is the crash with the 20 and the 38. And you can't see a lot of it. You can just hear and see things moving, but you hear Mule and very, very distinct, succinct, and on top of it gets Ryan through that crash, and they both kind of like congratulate each other afterward. It's kind of funny. Yeah, he is very, very good. He said, and that's what he said. I messaged him a little bit this morning to let him know this. You know, he saw the video and everything, and that we put out, and says, you know, he was a lot busier than usual down there. He said, and you know, a lot more of the action seemed to happen in front of him. So Jonathan says, you know, we're going to stop on the sign or short to help the fueler. So once again, already starting to think about fuel mileage and getting as much fuel in the car as we can. And part of that is making sure we hit the sign properly, not go through it. The 19 takes the inside for the initial start here. And lap 1, we sort out to P22 here. And then lap 2, the 60 passes. So we're back to P23, but then we pass the 60 back by the end of the lap. P22 again. Lap 8 here, Tim literally says no one's passing here. Everybody's kind of in line. And lap 10 here, we do pass the 34 to get to 21. And that's the one thing about the early part of the race is that guys who may have qualified real well and have a certain setup might not be set up for the race itself very well. And at this point in the race, so you kind of see that, the comers and goers like that. At lap 12, Ryan says we're a little bit free here about a number. Lap 17, we get a caution. The 1 crashed in 3, and I put under next to it, the 71 helped in with a question mark there because, what did TV say? I kind of missed what TV said there. It was.
Yeah, I mean, they said the 71 definitely pushed him through the corner. And honestly, it was kind of reminiscent of what we didn't talk about, the controversy from the Xfinity race when Austin Hill gets pushed through the corner by Eric Almirola. The difference was in that situation, Hill did regain control of his car despite what he says and then takes Eric out in the process. But in this one, the one kind of said it in his post-race interview as well, that the 71 just kind of drove through him in the middle of the corner, and that's what happened. And McDowell honestly is he's out of the car, he's happy and positive and nice, but inside the car McDowell is super aggressive. And when you're racing a guy like Chastain, who's probably roughed him up in the past, it just seemed really early to do something like that. So, and it maybe also just shows you guys that are frustrated that might be a little bit faster at points. And honestly, the Trackhouse cars, except for Shane having a pretty decent qualifying run, the last couple weeks have been struggling. So I think the 71 was just being impatient, thought he saw an opportunity here to maybe move him a little bit, and just ends up crashing him. So unfortunate for the Chastain folks.
Yeah. So the call here is discount, which ends up being 2-tire stop. 4.320 stop. Very, very good done time there. And, just taking the gas that they can take. So in P21 out, P19, and actually the 2, the 22, and the 21 stay out. And most everyone else took 2 tires. So this is where, once again, this is where we're on different strategies than the rest of the team, which is kind of interesting to me. Ryan chooses the outside for this, and the 2 leads on the inside here. Restart at lap 21. Sorts out to P18 here at lap 22, passing the 88 to get to 17. At lap 23, this is when he screams about a flat tire. And it was the 4 car that had the flat, and he saw it because it was like delaminating right in front of him, I think.
Yeah, like he could feel it coming. He's like, flat. I was like, and it scared us, right? Like,
yeah. He was in trouble. Like, okay, well, hurry up and pit, and maybe they'll lose a lap, maybe they'll get it back. And that's all I was thinking. I was like, and then the 71 also at that time had a flat tire too, and he was pulling again. So all the way up to 16th at this point here. At lap 34 here, the 4 comes by. I mean, we come by the 4 who's trying to lap down at this point. And in P16 here, lap 35, it's about 14 seconds back of the 2 leading, but they're running the same exact lap time, which is interesting. Ryan's got at least 2 newer tires, but at lap 41 here, he says he's a little bit free. The 22 pits at this time, we get to 15th here. The 40, lap 42, the 21 and the 2 end up pitting. So we're all the way up to 13. The 19 is in the lead now. At lap 46 here, the 43 pits now to 12th. At lap 50, the 19 wins the stage, and Ryan gets to 12th. And Ryan actually asked Jonathan what his thoughts about yellow are. Jonathan says we're talking about a long blue here, which once again, what are they talking about? I think more than anything else, talking about fuel strategy, what they're going to do with fuel. And Jonathan tells him we're going to go on the jack. We'll wait. So this stop is 12.720 seconds. But once again, this is almost like super speedway racing, right? I mean, how much fuel can we get in it so we can run an extra lap or two than anybody else later on, or put less fuel in it later on and make a quicker stop? So,
and knowing what reactions are sometimes, and I actually got someone thanked me on our X account getting ahead of this. I was saying, he finishes 12th in the stage. Note that they are going to wait on fuel here. Their plan is to pack fuel based on what we were deciphering in their comments, and he's going to lose more positions from the guys that essentially flipped the stage, which is the 2 and the 22 and the 43 and a variety of people. So we do see that, because I know if we leave it unsaid, people are going to wonder. He went in P12 and he comes out P20 plus. Like what? What the heck happened? Why was the stop so bad? But luckily, there's a decent amount of people that were at least caught on to what the strategy was. But it was interesting. The rest of Team Penske goes on this essentially flipping the stage strategy, but the
all together, all together, the 21 also.
I guess the other thing is the 12 wasn't in position to do it, because to do that, what they did, they had to be able to be up front. Because if you hit from where Ryan was, he would have come out a lap down. So that's true. I think you have to be within 4 seconds of the lead to be able to do it.
So I think P24 roughly here, and Jonathan tells him, take care of all the fuel you can, like right now. He literally says, like right now. The 60, the 48, the 7, the 2, the 21, the 22, the 43 all stayed out. So the 60 leads from the bottom here. Ryan takes the bottom also. Restart lap 55. Kind of a huge stack up here on this one, but it does sort the P21 here at lap 56. We passed the 99 to get to 20th. At lap 57 here, passes the 8 to get to 19th. And then at lap 63 here, the 60 pits from the lead. P18, the 48 now leads. Lap 64, the 48 and the 7 pit. We get to 16th. The 2 now leads. Lap 72 now. Ryan and Jonathan are talking about fuel savings and, basically run it hard or just try and stay in line. At lap 73 here, Tim and Ryan talk about the incoming rain. At lap 77 here, the 41 pits. And I think the 24 also pits. So we're up to 14th. Lap 78 here, the 5 pits up to 13th. At lap 79, the 9 and the 77 pit, we're up to 11th. Now, lap 84 here, we have some more pitting here. The 2 gets a flat tire at this point. 23 takes the lead, but we're all the way up to 7th. At lap 84, P6 here. At lap 87, the 34 pits, we're up to P5. At lap 88, Ryan says we're a little bit tighter here. The 23 pits from the lead up to 3rd. The 19 takes the lead at that point. At lap 89, we get a caution for the wheel of the 43. And I've got written here, great job by Mule. I should have grabbed the video of this one too, because you can see this thing. It shot to the right, hit the wall, came back across the track. And Mule pointed it out to Ryan real quick so he didn't run into it. Now Jonathan says we're leaning toward a number 1 here. And they do. They stay out, take the lead here. And,
See, this was like decision time. And what I think they saw from they've already pitted once. They had a chance to look at what tire fall off was like, which was pretty much non-existent. They knew if you were out front in clean air with the lead, it's tough to pass anybody out of that position. They have a win in their pocket. They're looking to get playoff points. And this was their opportunity to kind of capitalize on that as well. So I thought, and just with the way the track position game was, I think they also knew no matter what, at the end of this stage, they would get sent right back to the middle of the pack again anyway. So what's a few more spots? But there's a fuel situation here as well.
Well, here's the thing that gets lost every week when I read off the beginning of the thing what the stages are. So it's 50, 50, and 60 are the 3 stages, right? 50 lap, and 60 lap. But the first stage is 50 laps, yes. Then the yellow comes out, and they run the next 4, 5, sometimes 6 laps under caution. So the next stage doesn't actually have 50 green flag laps in it. It has, and if you get one caution in there, and that's what they do, because the fuel run was somewhere between, it said 38 and 43 laps. So one caution in there could get you close to the end, as we find out here. My wife goes on a rant that it's a whole thing about how they shouldn't count the laps. It should be like a dirt track, and not count these laps for cautions. But so John says, we're good here to the flag. Do what you need to win the stage here. And Ryan chooses the inside here. The 24 is behind us. The 6 is to our outside. So restarting lap 97 here. Ryan wins stage 2. He gets out there, checks out the last 2-3 laps. And Jonathan says pit first time by, even though it's closed. So that's how tight they were on gas. It's like, we don't want to risk you running out of gas and not being able to keep pace with the field or anything like that.
Yeah,
so,
and he did all that. He did have to hold off what it was, the 5 down to the end of that stage as well. And he kind of he had to battle a little bit to keep the lead. Thought he did a great job defending here. But yeah, the fuel thing, I didn't know. I knew they were going to be close. I didn't realize it would be literally that close. So the downside here is, they have to pit. They have to pit while pit road is closed. So that's a penalty automatically, tail end of the longest line on this next thing. So I mentioned that their risk reward was losing the track position and being back in the 20s again. So because of how tight fuel ended up being, the penalty was a lot more. But I think Ryan, he understood the call. He understood the gain that they were getting with stage points and the playoff point. And I think he even mentions during their conversation here, like, I understand it. Doing that was a lot better than just riding around 15th all day.
Yeah. So, and it's 4 tires. They're going on the jack, 2 cans of fuel. But the interesting is tail end on the longest line anyway, so they come back in top off too, which was kind of a smart thing before they go when they go into the choose. So restart at lap 105 here with the 5 leading on the inside here. Ryan is tail end on the longest line, but I think it was 24th. I think there was only 24 cars in the lead lap. So at lap 106 here, he passed the 78 to get to 23rd. At lap 116, past the 21 pits to get to 22nd. At lap 118, the 19, the 22, and the 24 pit. So we're up to 19th. At lap 119 here, the 23, the 17, the 2 pit, we're up to 16th. Lap 120, the 20, the 54 pit, we're up to 14th. At lap 121, the 5, the 77, 45, the 11, the 60 all pit, we're up to 8th. Like I said, all the passing is just, at lap 122, the 38, the 42, and the 9 are on their strategy. They pit, and we're up to 5th. At lap 123, let's see here, the 88 pits are up to 4th. The 7 is leading at this point, which has got to be pretty thrilling for them. And Jonathan says we don't want to give up any lap time here, so because I think the thought was to see how much we can just backpedal a little bit and save fuel and see what we can do. But at lap 125 here, P4 here, about 7 seconds back of the 7. And at this point, P5 is the 78, about 12 seconds back of the 7. So about 5 seconds behind us. The 78 is trying to run the same strategy we are, which is kind of interesting too. And lap 130 here, top 5 are the 7, the 6, the 34, the 12, and the 78. At lap 134, the 22 gets his flat tire. And then Logano stalls it on pit road too, which was not good for him. At lap 136, the 7 and the 6 pit. So Ryan goes to the lead. And then I was like, rain
dance. Yeah, because we knew, some of the folks, the media folks were sharing, rain potentially being in the area. There's points during this race, especially toward the end, where there was more rain in the area, but it was going south of the track. But this was kind of the thing. They packed as much fuel as they possibly could to run as long as they possibly could, knowing that it's a possibility. The only thing I was thinking was it's still relatively early in the day. We saw what they did at Dover the week before. Yeah. So it wasn't going to end. But, it's never our luck, though, to get that massive rainstorm when he's leading the race on some kind of crazy strategy. It never shakes out for us.
Lap 138 here, Tim tells him that second place is 20 seconds behind him, and it's the 78 car. And so at lap 139 here, we do pit. It's a 10.260 stop, which is not bad, really. And, enough fuel to get to the end. That's the main thing at this point. So now we're going to have more fuel than a lot of other guys. And there's only one or two cars that are like on our fuel strategy right now, and the 6 is one of them. At lap 140 here, the 23 takes the lead. And lap 144, we're P22. At lap 153, Mule's talking about raindrops in there, down there. And at lap 154, we get a caution for rain. And at lap 156, they red flag it. So Jonathan says if we gain anything, we're going to plan on staying out, when they come back out, and yellow does come back out after a little bit of delay here. 5 cars pit. Ryan stays out. The 2 blew a tire coming to pit road, I think.
Yeah, and that's another one Ryan calls. He's like, the two just blew a tire. I've never seen that. I've never seen that on a pace lap before. Second, so Ryan it's the second time the 2 blew a tire in the race, and then obviously the 22 did as well. So, not sure what they had going on setup wise, but it was aggressive.
Yeah. So Ryan, starts 17th here in the first green-white checker here. The 23 is leading, taking the bottom. Ryan takes the bottom in that lane. And like I said, you guys want to go to our TikTok page if you're following TikTok. It's the first one that's not pinned there. Or if you're on Facebook or our Instagram, like I said, I think I put it underneath Reels, but I think those show up like in the stories there. In not stories, but and the full video of these 2 restarts is in there. So he gets a decent start on the inside. He's passing a car or 2, and they go down the back stretch, and the 20. I don't know what the heck the 20 is doing there. He just basically looks like he punts the 38, and it's a pretty hard crash for Zane. And Mule does a fabulous job, like I said, of guiding Ryan through this. They get through it, and Mule says, "Good job," to Ryan, and Ryan says, "You too." It was really kind of cool to hear them, because Mule's not every week, like Tim is, and Mule. The thing about Mule doing it, and I've told him this before, is he is, like I said, he's very, very solid with what he's doing, what he's saying. He's very professional, and I think he could do it full time if he really wanted to.
I don't know what the deal with the 20 was. It seemed like he got a big run, and actually you'll see Ryan do this during the race as well. You'll get this big run on the outside, and then you kind of cut below the car, and to make the pass, especially if you're going toward the turn, because it's hard to make a pass on the outside on a turn. But it's like the 20 just decided to do it way too late. And I don't know if the 38 was in combination with the 38 maybe slowing a little bit. And that's what threw the timing off even more. But, in comparison to what the 21 did the day before in right hooking, this was definitely a right hook, but I don't think this was in any sort of angry situation. And the 20 comes on the radio immediately, like, oh man, like more of like a racing, I'm an idiot, stupid move kind of a thing. But he's having some, I don't know, some like mental struggles the last few weeks with that 20 car. So they are struggling. But I didn't mind. I did mind seeing this caution because of what was happening, the drama happening at the lead. Mm-hmm. But I knew it sets up Ryan, and people in the Discord were even saying this with the rain caution, like, all right, here's an opportunity to make up some positions here, because if it just went, even from here straight green the rest of the way, like top 15 was going to be great. But one more restart with the fresher tires, no concerns at all about fuel, unlike half the field was concerned. All right, a top 10 is possible. And we've seen this happen before, when not always because of strategy situations, but maybe they've had some bad luck or a spin out or something in a race. And I think I texted you, I said, this is very 2023 like, where even when they had a bad race, they would find a way to rebound all the way back up into like a top 10 from a variety of different reasons. And that's what we end up seeing here on this next restart.
Yeah, the all the way to 13th at this point, and you're saying about you reminded me of Nashville 2 years ago, actually, with all the restarts and how much ground he made up. He made up some big ground that day. So Jonathan's like, we're definitely staying out here. Ryan's 10-4. The leader's choosing the bottom here. Ryan's staying the bottom. And this is a second green-white checker here. And I know for sure, like, I was trying to keep track of all the different things that happen because he gets on the inside. He does pass a little bit of a couple cars here and there. On the first lap itself, in 3 and 4, 2 cars bump into each other and kind of knock each other up into the wall, and he gets underneath those 2. He's going, in the next lap, in 1 and 2, the 21 runs out of gas down in 1 and 2. As he's going down the back stretch, right before he gets to 3 there, I think the 24 runs out. He passes him. He gets all the way into P7 in those 2 laps, 6 more spots. And the 23 does win the race, but like you said, for the winning a stage, another point for the playoffs, and then finishing 7th when you start 24th, like you said again, a track that was extremely hard to pass at, was really, really good, on the day. So overall, I'm pretty excited. We're not like having to worry about people with their toasters and their bathtubs or anything this week. So we'll just go with it, and we'll go next week to someplace which should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's just good to have good, solid back-to-back top 10 weeks, especially with the DNF issues they've had this season. Like you said, they overcame a lot when it came to track position. They kind of, ran a strategy, basically kind of throwing away their finish by running long to get the playoff point and get the stage points to win that second stage. But things worked out to where it came back around and they get a top 10. So great overall day for Ryan. Like I said, after he crossed the finish line, he was kind of even pumped up about, the way things worked out. Like I said, good to have a couple of good weeks back to back. So that was Ryan's race. What are your thoughts on the drama that was happening at the front here? Because before the rain delay, the 23 had a lead of 6-7 seconds that had narrowed all the way down to about 3 seconds when the red flag came out for rain. Then he's matched up with Kyle Larson at Indianapolis, defending race winner.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them have fuel concerns. Both of them have been told basically they can make it one green-white checker. The 5 has been told he's a little bit better in a better position on fuel than the 23 is because his pit stop was about a second or so longer than the 23 stop. So the 5 can push all he wants basically on this restart. So not only does the 23 lose out on just cruising to a victory. Now, I think the 5 would have gotten, if it goes green to the end, I think the 5 would have gotten there, and he would have to battle a little bit to hold on to the win, but he loses that opportunity with the red flag. And he's put in the position of having to duel him on a restart. He outduels him on the restart. It was a little close. Caution comes out again.
Yeah.
And he's got a second restart. Did you really think that Bubba was going to hold him off with Larson getting a second chance at to what happens here?
That's what's crazy is the first restart, if anybody really watched it carefully, going into 1 and around almost into 2, the 5 did a better job. And he pulled in front of him in 1 and 2 into 2. I think Bubba did a better job of kind of moving him a little bit, making him run a different line that he didn't want to run. The second time around, I think Bubba ran him into a line he didn't want to run at all. And because a lot of people are saying it looked like he had a problem and he got loose or something. And yeah, I think that's not just the car and the driver trying really hard, but I also think that once you head into the turn on that restart, if the guy on the inside, gets a good jump, that's the key. He gets an extremely good jump on the second restart to where the guy behind him isn't a threat at all. So he doesn't have to protect. And when he doesn't have to protect, now all of a sudden he can move his line a little bit outside. And when you do that, you force the guy on the outside to run a line he doesn't want to run at all. I think that's exactly what he did in 1 and 2 on the second restart. It's so funny. We do this all the time. We listen to other podcasts before we do our show. But if it would have went green, Freddie says it would have been a beautiful accident at the end, as Larson caught him, and then Bubba won't go and let him by. So that would have been real interesting to watch too, because there would have been no way, you would have seen all kind of blocking like you wouldn't believe if you had to do it. So, I really think you get these green white checkers, and if you learn quickly from them and you do something different the second time around, you can really help yourself. And I think, like I said, the second one was that he got a really good jump off the line, so the guy behind him wasn't a threat whatsoever. And then he was able to go into one and kind of move Larson a little further outside than he wanted to be going through 1 and 2. So
the other thing to point out on these restarts was Bubba got zero help from behind. The 24 did not push the 23 at all, which is understandable with the teammate situation that was happening on the outside of the front row. One other insight that actually came from Kyle Larson's interview, first restart attempt, Bubba had the pace up pretty quick. So I guess, when they went into that restart there, it was like a second gear situation. When they made the restart, when he came around again to do this other restart, Larson says Bubba slowed the pace down to where he had to start in first gear. And again, I don't know all the technical aspects of things, but that was like when you talk about some of the mind games and tricks that these drivers pull off, Bubba didn't want to approach the restart the same way he had just done the last one. So he slowed the pace down. And I think that kind of caught Larson off guard a little bit. And that's when he did get that jump. I kind of said to you the fact that I thought Larson, after he lost his opportunity to pass him on that restart, and in no way am I saying he laid back or anything just to let Bubba win or something. I think he kind of understood that, okay, I'm not going to beat him now. So you didn't really see him battle too close to him. Once they maybe got out of once they got into 3 and 4, he made it a little bit closer. But I really think Larson went into a little bit of survival mode because I think he'd been told the whole way through that there's no way the 23 is going to make it through 2 green-white checkers. And I thought he had an opportunity to just watch the 23 run out of gas and cruise to his back-to-back win. But that didn't happen. And we talked about this a little bit off air, but what are your thoughts on the fuel situation? I thought with how vocal and open the 23 was on their radio, that maybe they knew they had a little bit more fuel than what they were kind of letting on, especially when a guy is able after the race to do a massive burnout up and down the front stretch, pull the car up to the wall, do another burnout again, drive all the way back toward victory lane, and then finally run out when he gets to the lift. So that tells me, and I think a lot of guys play these tricks a little bit, but I think they knew they had a little bit more in them than we're going to run out like Ryan did at the end of the stage. We're going to run out at the flag. It made it exciting. I thought for sure I was just counting down. I'm like, all right, when's he going to run out? When's he going to run out? Because I was excited for him to win. I was like, something bad's going to happen. When's it going to happen? And it never did. And he wins the race. And it was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Like I said, we're listening to, once again, the Door Will Clear stuff today. They made it sound like they were only good for 1 green, white checker. And that caution in the first green, white checker happened quickly, it happened half a lap in, not a whole lap in. So, and then he said that they went back to green quicker than they thought they would too. So I don't know if they were able to save enough on the caution laps and then, or not, because it's really hard to tell how they do with their savings. Listening to in-car camera, like with Ryan, you can hear him shut the car off. Literally at the track, at the end of a stage, it's the most eerie sound. We were like at Dover, we were in turn 2, right? So, end of the stage, and then every car that comes by, no noise. all their engines are off. They shut them off at the start finish line, and they're just cruising on the track. So, what he did to conserve whatever they needed to conserve. And the truth is except for the 2 cars that ran out, 2 or 3 cars that ran out in that last lap, everybody else was able to finish. So just a degree of you have a quarter gallon left to run the burnouts or not, and he had that. So you're right though. They play chess a little bit with each other sometimes on the radios. Like everybody's sitting there listening to everybody else's radio, which I don't believe they have time to do, but who knows?
So in the end, Bubba Wallace picks up his 3rd career victory. things that warmed my heart was Bubba getting out of the car, not to like a course of booze. Seemed like the folks that stuck around on the front stretch were pretty pumped up about it. The drivers, there's a great compilation from NASCAR, 2 different ones, of Bubba, the cool down lap.
Yeah.
And even Alex Bowman, who Bubba has just recently crashed,
Yeah.
was among the guys to come up and, rub fenders with him in kind of like a congratulatory manner. Several guys did that on the cool down lap. And then there was several guys making their way to the front stretch there where, the car was parked to congratulate him, including Ryan, his best, pretty much his best friend in the garage, coming to throw some water on him, picking him up off the ground, having a great moment there.
Did you hear what he said?
Bubba, yeah, go ahead and say.
About now you got to wait on me.
Yeah.
If any of you know, and listen,
yep.
And listen and pay attention at Nashville, that's what he told him. He goes over to congratulate him, Victory Lane, and he says, "Now hurry up, we're waiting on you."
Yeah.
So he's like, "Now you got to wait for me," which is just a fabulous little inside joke between the two of them.
And I think even Freddie mentioned it as well, that just their reception going to Victory Lane and going up on the lift was like super positive. Social media is what it is, but I did see a lot of positivity there as well. Kind of even outweighing some of that. People can say what they want to say about Talladega. What they said about Kansas, I think, was total, made up stuff, whatever it was. He earned that one. There's nothing. There's no true argument. Winning a cup race is so hard in general. Everyone deserves it, even all the way down to one of my least favorite races I ever went to at Daytona was when Justin Haley won the rain shortened race in a Spire car, who was there at that time without any intention of actually being a true race team, won that race. But they deserved it just on the strategy that they did. Bubba was cruising to a win, had a red flag rain delay, had a race heads up with arguably one of the best drivers in the country, twice, and outduels them, and wins it. So, and it's a crown jewel. I know there's some folks that question that after they took a break from the oval for a while, but it's still one of the most highly attended races of the year. Perfect place for Bubba to pick up his third win and lock himself into the playoffs. And we're only really kind of playing up this so much just because there is that great relationship between Ryan and Bubba. We wouldn't do this for really probably any other driver. I just thought it was great to see.
It's amazing to me because you get this, I don't want to get real negative here, but you get this backlash thing that's just so strange. And it is what it is, and they won't say what it is. People won't call them out for what they're doing. And it's really sad because even like the littlest thing on the internet, goes through, let's say, Facebook, and it's one of those fake stories, right? And nobody takes the time to Google it, right? So automatically they believe what they want to believe off it. They don't Google it and realize it's not real, it's fake. And then all of a sudden this guy gets all that hate for it. And no matter how much, like last night, I know you were having a little bit of fun with people last night, but no matter how much you do that, are they ever learning? No one's ever learning. No one's ever getting any better. No one's ever rising above it. Some of it is generational. I understand that. Some of it is just like they were just taught to be that way, and they are that way. And I'm sorry, but we all still live on the same planet. And as long as I still live on the same planet as anybody else is a human being like me, and I say like me, like human being, okay, not anything to do with a color or an ethnicity or a shape or a size, okay, we got to start treating each other better. And that's all there is to it, because we're all in this together. The guy is trying to do something in a sport where, heck, the last black man to win a race in NASCAR, they took the trophy away from him because they didn't want him taking pictures with the trophy girl, in front of everybody. Oh, they gave it to him later on. They gave him the check or whatever, but they didn't let him, and that's where we've been in this country. And it's time to start rising above that, starting to show people that we're better than that, that sometimes you have to become a little more educated and a little bit of a better person and just not be like that, and some of the excuses that people make are just that, they're excuses. And, like I said, I don't want to get too negative here, but I just want to kind of say something, and hopefully it rains through with some people that are not realizing that they're acting that way. Maybe there are some that just don't realize it.
Yeah, and there's a huge difference between the detractors for Bubba Wallace versus the detractors of Denny Hamlin or Joey Logano. Very rarely are those folks attacking their character, or anything else. When you see negative comments about Bubba, it goes straight to one specific part of him. When you see negative comments about Joey and Hamlin, it's talking about things that they've done on track and stuff like that. So there's a difference of not being a fan of somebody for things like that, and not being a fan of somebody because your heart is so much full of hate that you're totally blinded by that. And I know for us in our account, our Discord, our fan base, there's no room for anybody like that. So and I had to say that to a few folks yesterday in some of the comments on the post, of Ryan and Bubba, that said, thanks for the comment. Unfollow us on your way out.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. But if you do go to our social media posts that highlighted the Ryan and Bubba exchange, it was overwhelmingly positive, and great to see that Ryan's fan base, for the most part, truly embraces this friendship and understands the importance of everything that Bubba's doing out on the track. So again, congratulations to him and everything he was able to accomplish yesterday.
Yeah, my wife said that the chip on his shoulder thing comes up a lot. And it's like, you don't realize who put the chip there. Did he put it there? I don't think so. So, when you think about these things and you're going to say them out loud, go into a mirror first and look at yourself as you talk about them. Maybe you're going to see what you're going to sound like before you do it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I like Marty Snyder and everything. The only issue I have sometimes in being a member of the media, this is difficult, but just the way that it's handled sometimes. They made sure they got that question in during his interview. What do you have to say to all of your haters out there? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like they put guys like Bubba, or even just a Joey or a Denny, on the spot to create more controversy too. Luckily, I think Bubba handled it really well. Did make a great. He did kind of make one comment about it that, I wonder how far they're going to push the goalpost now. So yeah, what does he have to do now to prove himself? But I think the man's done enough. Folks like to bring up the fact that he's only won 3 races, and I love to bring the stats out. About 2,700 drivers in the history have started a cup race in the history of NASCAR. I think it's around 206 or 207 of those 2,700 drivers have ever won one race. 118, including Bubba Wallace, have won 3. So statistically, you can say Bubba's career hasn't been impressive, but the stats show otherwise. Mm-hmm. Yep. Not every driver, and I'll repeat, not every driver is going to have a career like Jimmy Johnson or a career like Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt, even his car owner, Denny Hamlin closing in on 60 wins. Mm-hmm. Not every driver can be a superstar. You have to have drivers like Bubba Wallace that have just good, solid careers. A guy that's hung around the top 10 in points all year, just recently slipped to 11th or so, and that's kind of where he is right now. But if you're saying a guy that on straight up points in 11th doesn't deserve a ride, what does that say about everybody from 12th on back?
Yeah.
So that's all it is. So speaking of point.
Oh, I got one more thing here that I just want to add in real quick. It's something that popped up. It's literally like I was we've got, like we said, we do TikTok on a separate entity here, but something popped up and I kind of grabbed it real quick here on Twitter. Jonathan Hassler's on Twitter. For you guys that don't know that, and it's JHASS_03. And he doesn't put stuff out often, but I guess there's a special vote going on for Tim Fedawa's daughter Willow for Athlete of the Year, and he's put a link there. So I just pulled that up real quick because I saw it pop up there. There's just a little something here. If you guys are listening to the podcast, go to Jonathan's Twitter, find that link, click on it, and let's get let's use the power of the Team Blaney podcast to get Willow a victory. That'd be kind of cool.
So yeah, we'll be sure to share that as well on our social channels. So speaking of the point standings, getting the stage points, the stage win, the playoff point, everything. William Byron, thankfully running out of fuel at the end, did a lot positive momentum for the 12 team when it comes to the point standings this week. Ryan is still in the 7th position overall in the standings, but now he's just 110 points back of the leader. Going into this weekend, he was about like 123-ish points back. So was able to gain a decent amount of points. Also really closed the gap with 5th and 6th. You had Christopher Bell, who, had that crash at the end. Tyler Reddick got caught up in the crash at the end. That kind of derailed their days. So there was a point a couple weeks ago where it looked like 5th and 6th weren't within reach for Ryan, coming down to the last few races of the year. But now 5th position is just about 52 points away from Ryan, which is a couple of races can be made up there. 6th position is just 41 points away. So 5th is Christopher Bell, 6th is Tyler Reddick. Again, Ryan is in 7th. They are all still chasing Chase Elliott, who is in the lead now overall, but by just 4 points over William Byron. Kyle Larson is 15 points back in 3rd. Denny Hamlin is 20 points back in 4th. If Denny hadn't missed Mexico and had a similar finish to what Ryan Truex had, that 11 car is only 6 points back of the lead in the owner points. So again, Bell's in 5th, Reddick 6th, Blaney 7th, Chase Briscoe, who's on this crazy run of starting up front every week, is in 8th, 127 points back. Alex Bowman is in 9th, 146 back. And fellow Ford teammate Chris Buescher is in the 10th position, 167 points back. Bubba moved up 2 spots to 11th. And teammate Joey Logano moved down another spot to 12th overall in the standings, 194 points back. So I think the strategy paid off. Everything worked out to get that top 10 finish, and it put things in a positive direction for this 12 team as they head to one of Ryan's best tracks in Iowa this coming weekend. Let's take a look at our last thing when it comes to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway race weekend, and that is the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And the top 10 this week, when we go to it, is actually full of a lot of some of our, our super followers, folks that are in our Discord, folks that follow us on Twitter and TikTok and watch us live. So we'll shout them out as we go. Once again, no surprise to anybody, I did not have a great week when it comes to fantasy. This was my starting lineup, which at points in the race was actually doing pretty well. I had the winner, Bubba Wallace, got me 50 points. Chase Briscoe got me 29 points. Tyler Reddick was doing much better until the end of there, got me 15. Ty Gibbs, 16. AJ Allmendinger, 15. Kyle Larson I had in the garage, and I left him there. So I left 47 points in the garage, but right before it was time to, the end of stage 2, I think Allmendinger and some were actually in better positions. So I had just left the 5 in there. I was like, all right, I'll save the 5 for one of these other weeks. And honestly, if I even moved him in, it still wasn't even gonna crack like the top 20. So it doesn't really truly matter in the end. Featured matchups, I picked Bell over Reddick. That was right. I picked Blaney over Bubba Wallace. Obviously, that was wrong. I picked Ty Dillon. I was running, hoping for Ty to pull off one last upset in the in-season challenge. That didn't work out. So Ty Gibbs beats Ty Dillon, so I lost that featured matchup. And I picked Kyle Larson over Hamlin, and that was right by one position. 67th overall on the weekend for me. 145, a lowly 145 points on the weekend for me in the fantasy league. So let's take a look at what your starting lineup was.
Yeah, I did have Bubba, and I had Kyle Larson. So I had 50 and 47 there. I had Buescher for 31 points, Briscoe for 29 points, and then Tyler Reddick for 15. I had Chase Elliott in the garage. So I probably could have gotten about 9 more points if I swapped them out for the lowest guy. But I think it was pretty solid with where they were at the end of stage 2, so I didn't really mess with it. I had Bell over Reddick. I did have Ryan over Bubba. I thought it'd be a little closer than that. Well, 7th it's not too bad. I did have Gibbs over Dillon. I just kind of felt that the equipment wasn't going to work out for Dillon, and it kind of didn't. And then I did have Larson over Hamlin. So overall, I got most of the matchups and had a decent points day for the league.
Yeah, so you end up in the 14th position on the weekend, 202 points earned. Let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned on the weekend in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. Starts off with a three-way tie for 10th with Sam Speedsters, Blaney Kicks Beep, and defending league winner Racer SF with 207 points. Ninth is Factory of Sadness 6 with 208 points. My wife, Rogers T, came home in 8th, 212 points. Our friend Chelsea Megan, 1912, ended up in a tie in 6th with Matt O at 213 points. 5th was RF Blaney 12, 214 points. 4th was Go 12 Go, 220. 3rd position, part-time co-host of the Team Blaney podcast, Kate Mez, 224 points on the weekend for 3rd. And then we had a tie for the win between DT Daytona 12, that's a new name, 225 points, and Joe Bro, 1221. Another one of our friends and contributor as well, alongside his wife Chelsea, wins the weekend in that tie with DT Daytona 12, 225 points on the weekend.
The women of the Team Blaney podcast ought to do their own fantasy preview every week. Your wife, my wife, Chelsea. They ought to just,
And I've said it before. She asks me for advice sometimes, and I'm like, why are you asking me? You consistently beat me every week. Don't ask me who you should start.
Maybe she's trying to help you. Maybe she's trying to help you. I don't know.
So let's take a look at the overall standings in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. I'm 71st overall, 3,619 points earned so far this season. In 10th, we have Blaney Kicks Beep, 4,114 points. Hashtag LGM is in 9th, 4,120. The Daisy Dukes holds the 8th spot, 4,147. Go 12 Go is in 7th, 4,152 points. Former champion Clyde's Chicken Pit Racing is in 6th, 4,160 points. Mez 12, your team, holding down the 5th position overall, 4,195 points. 4th is Pit Stop Pro, 4,222. Vans 12 is in 3rd, slipping a little bit down the leaderboard. They had the lead for a little while here in the overall standings, 4,255 points. Alyssa C, she's been toward the top of the leaderboard all year long in 2nd, 4,277 points. And it's still a pretty tight battle here to the 1st position. Our friend Jordan Daniels holding down the top spot, 4,290 points on the season to lead the league.
I'm just chipping away.
Yep.
I have four more weeks till they reset the number of usages too. So that's the other thing. These next 4 weeks, everybody's got to try to find somebody that they haven't used 10 times, already. And if I can do that and just kind of stay where I'm at, I think I can make a run the last 10 weeks.
And that brings us now to the race weekend at Iowa Speedway. Things kick off on Saturday, August 2nd, when it comes to the NASCAR National Series. Practice for the Cup Series, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time from Iowa. You can watch that on True TV, listen to it on MRN SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Following practice, 2:40 p.m. Eastern Time, you have qualifying for the Cup Series on those same places, True TV, MRN SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Hy-Vee Perks 250 from Iowa for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. You can watch that on the CW network. Listen to it on MRN SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Then Sunday, August 3rd, you have the Iowa Corn 350 powered by ethanol from Iowa Speedway for the NASCAR Cup Series, USA Network, HBO Max for streaming, and for the in-car cameras, MRN SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on the radio. Again, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Cup Series race from Iowa. And guess what, Steve? The defending race winner, the only NASCAR Cup Series race winner in history at the Iowa Speedway, is the driver of the number 12, Ryan Blaney, who led 201 of the 350 laps in 2024 on his way to victory. Started second in the race, so off the truck, fast and qualifying as well. Went on to win the race. This completed his career sweep at Iowa. He won his first ever NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race at Iowa. He went on to win in the number 22 Discount Tire Ford for Team Penske in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, where he had a really dominant showing there to win that second one. So yeah, career sweep. He's won in all 3 NASCAR National Series at Iowa Speedway. So fantastic track for Ryan Blaney. It was one we were really excited to see added to the schedule last year. Now they come in this weekend as the defending race winners, coming off of 2 straight top 10 finishes with a little bit of momentum. Is this an opportunity? They won at Nashville a few weeks ago. Is this an opportunity to pick up a back-to-back win and a second win of 2025? What do you think?
Last year there was like this whole pave thing going on, and they definitely had found something about how to work the car off of that part of pavement that was repaved and everything. And we'll see what another year of aging does to that, but just see how it unloads. I know he's confident in what he's doing there. He's definitely confident in what the lines are like. The only big difference to me is that it's a day race, whereas last year it went into the evening. And I think that's going to make a little bit of a difference because starting earlier in the day, the heat, out in that part of the country right now is pretty hot. And maybe it'll make the racing good, though. Maybe everybody will be loose and slick, and, that'll be good for the actual product, maybe.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the at least the top 10 here from Iowa last year. Again, the lone cup race for the NASCAR Cup Series at Iowa Speedway. Brad Keselowski finished in the 10th position. Daniel Suarez was 9th. Alex Bowman 8th. Josh Berry, who's a teammate now, was in 7th. Joey Logano was in 6th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who I don't understand how no one's putting him in an Xfinity Series car, because that guy dominated that series at Iowa. Had a great finish for his team in the 47 last year with a top 5. Christopher Bell was 4th. Chase Elliott 3rd. William Byron 2nd. And Ryan Blaney again won the race. Blaney led the most laps on the day, 201 laps led. There was a point there where Josh Berry did get the lead, and that was in a Stuart Haas car, led 32 laps. The next highest was Chris Buescher, led 16 laps. And Kyle Larson had some issues and had led 80 laps too. So had a strong showing, had some issues in the race eventually. So anyone that I just said, especially just fresh off of talking about fantasy, people are in some tough positions as far as people that are available right now as well. But in a perfect world, who are you looking at pre-practice and qualifying as fantasy possibilities for the weekend?
Well, the teams actually, RFK showed up with good speed last weekend, but once again, this is a whole different track. Was it 7/8 a mile? So it's a whole different situation. It's really hard to tell. Like, maybe just go with the hot hand. Bubba, is confident now, right? I mean, he's got what he needs. Now they're going to play loose and fast, try and get themselves some more stage points, things like that. And right now, I think that's half of the fantasy. My thoughts on fantasy in the next couple of weeks really is find guys who are going to get their stage points at least before they fade at the end of a race. So, I might look at somebody like that.
And if you are in this position where you have used up all the Blaneys and the Larsons and the Byrons and such, some of those folks that I mentioned there, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. might be a pick that you have available. Josh Berry might be a pick you have available. Daniel Suarez. Todd Gilliland finished 12th in this race last year, finished ahead of Ryan in this race this past week in Indianapolis. So they're coming with a little bit of speed. Justin Haley in the 51 last year. He had a great run just this past weekend as well. He finished in the top 15. Carson Hocevar finished in the top 15.
That's a guy Hocevar is a guy that kind of comes to mind because this is like one of those smaller tracks where he can kind of like nudge people on the way. Muscle himself in there,
Yeah, so there are some opportunities if you're in a load management situation where you're trying to hold on to some guys for maybe some road course races or some things that you'll have some more people to pick from when it comes to your fantasy lineup. Again, don't take advice from me though. Take advice from Steve. Maybe he'll talk about his fantasy stuff on Wednesday, give you a little bit more insight on how he's made it into the top 5 in the league. So But I still have some Ryan Blaney starts out there. I still have some Kyle Larsons and some things. So I do a lot of load management throughout the year, and I always use that as my excuse. And then honestly, I catch fire a lot during the playoffs, which I still haven't been able to win or anything. So, but we'll see. So again, if you want to tune in this weekend for the race weekend at Iowa Speedway, things kick off on Saturday, August 2nd. 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on True TV for practice. 2:40 p.m. Eastern time, you have qualifying for the Cup Series. 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, you have the NASCAR Xfinity Series race on the CW. Then Saturday again, Sunday, August 3rd, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, the Iowa Corn 350 powered by ethanol from the Iowa Speedway on USA, HBO Max, MRN, Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio.
If you've got that True TV thing, if you've got the Max app already for the in-car cameras, the practice is there. So if you don't have True TV on your cable, but you still have the Max app for the in-car cameras, just go there Saturday. They've got the broadcast there.
Speaking of Saturday, it is a big weekend coming up in Northeast Ohio at Sharon Speedway. We have the Lou Blaney Memorial happening out there. We have 410 sprint cars, big block modifieds. For the sprint cars, it's $12,000 to win, $1,200 to start. The big block modifieds portion of the Lou Blaney Memorial is $2,500 to win. They're going to have a great car count. You're going to see Dale Blaney again behind the wheel of the number 10 for his brother Dave. It is the car that won this race last year when Dave gave it the walk-off. Retired right there on the front stretch, celebrating the victory in his dad's race. They did have a tune-up race scheduled this past weekend that got rained out, unfortunately. So they didn't get that in. So a lot of guys will kind of travel in and do that to just kind of test their cars out the week ahead of this race. Unfortunately, that didn't make it in. So this Saturday, again, August 2nd, pits open at 3 p.m., grandstands open at 4 p.m., racing starts at 7 p.m. This is a bigger show. $30 is the admission price. Kids 13 and under are free. So again, this is at Sharon Speedway, the track that Ryan Blaney co-owns with his dad, Dave, and some other folks up there in Northeast Ohio. This is their biggest race of the year when it comes to one of their own, promoted races, the Lou Blaney Memorial. Incredibly important for the Blaney family. There's also a lot of other things that happen. If you're there and on site, they have, lots of great setups in the fan zone. One of the other things that they're happening, and you'll see this on posts that we've shared and posts that the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation has shared, they have a silent auction every year. When it first started, it was something that was done in person. The last several years, they've moved it online. So if you go to our social media accounts, if you go to Sharon Speedway's accounts, Ryan Blaney Family Foundation, you'll find a link there to where you can see the silent auction items. They're already up and open, and people are bidding now. I mentioned to Steve, unless you've already been involved, I think if you had an account and stuff set up for the pickleball event, it might log you in right away. If it's your first time visiting this site, it'll show you a preview of a few of the items, but that's not all that's available. Open that up, start an account. I think it asks for a phone number or an email. Then you'll see all the items. There's a ton of autographed memorabilia, parts from cars. I mean, lots of Dave and Ryan stuff and stuff from other drivers that have donated items.
Couple
part of this. There's usually a couple
large items.
Yeah, there's usually some other things like vacations, and there's I think a Taylor Swift guitar. So it's something for everybody. I have seen some of the bids are already up there, and you have to remember, again, this is something that is for charity. This event specifically helps support, I believe, the Alzheimer's Association, which is one of the core missions of support for the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. So all of that's happening this weekend. Please pray for some good weather up there in Northeast Ohio, so this event goes on without any issues. Again, Sharon Speedway this Saturday, August 2nd, for the Lou Blaney Memorial. I know we are going to be cheering on Dale Blaney, hopefully to pick up another win in this race. Dave's won it multiple times as well.
If you guys are listening to this and you're going to be there on lap 22, we want to hear everybody cheer.
That's true. One of the other opportunities, and maybe there's still some laps available between the sprint car race and the big block modified race, is you can sponsor a lap in this race. They put up a great post saying that they were kind of doing this for Kate. Again, Ryan's grandmother, Kate Blaney, Lou Blaney's wife, passed away recently. So they put up a really nice post about laps, sponsoring a lap for Kate. We've done that from the Team Blaney podcast. Steve mentioned lap 22. Thought that was fitting. We couldn't get 12. 12 was already taken. We couldn't get 10. 10 was already taken. So we got lap 22. Both Ryan and Dave have run the number 22 car in a NASCAR National Series races. So thought that was the most fitting number that was left up there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Team Blaney podcast has sponsored lap 22 of the Lou Blaney Memorial, and we're looking forward to it. I know if everything goes right, you might be there in attendance. We know another one of our contributors, Jerry Mariotti, who actually came on the show last year to introduce himself. I'm sure he's going to be there in person as well. Lots of Blaney fans will be there. So if you see Steve, if you see Jerry, if you see Kate, anybody else, say hello. They always like to meet you folks.
Yeah. Kate will help you with your fantasy picks Saturday night.
That's right. That's right. So I think good show, Steve. Thanks for coming back. Looking forward to hopefully talking about another victory for Ryan Blaney at Iowa Speedway next week. Fingers crossed for that. Hoping again for a Dale Blaney victory in the Lou Blaney Memorial. Fingers crossed for that as well. And thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in to this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. Whether you're listening to us on the audio version or live on TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube, we appreciate you guys being out there in our audience. During the weekend on race day, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So for my co-host, Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Newton. Check out the TikTok.